listening to Proof Text, a Glossa House podcast by Dr. T. Michael W. Halcomb, Dr. Frederick J. Long, Dr. Mario Melendez, Dr. Jennifer Noonan, and J. M. Smith. Welcome and enjoy.
Hello and welcome to Proof Text. I am Michael Halcomb, and in this episode we are thinking about our Hebrew vocabulary. That means that this is a Growcabulary episode. And the Hebrew word that we're thinking about, or Hebrew root that we're thinking about today is shalach. So we have shen, lamed, chet. So we're going to look at this in just a moment. And if you're watching, you kind of have an advantage. But if you're just listening, that's okay too. We're going to do our usual thing. We're going to look at stepbible.org and then two-letter lookup. So let's head over to stepbible.org and just get a brief look at this. So here we go. Actually, let me pull the English off here. There we go. We have our Hebrew up, and I'm going to increase the font size a little bit for those who are watching. All right, here we go. And I'm going to hit the search button and set my keyboard to Hebrew so I can type in Hebrew. And then here we go. Shalach. Type that in, and you see in the search we get a few results. So on the first one we have shalach, and then shelach, and then we have shelach. Then we have these other shelach, their names. The rest of them are names except for shulchan, which is a table. So we're interested mainly in the first three, and especially the first two. The first two actually are essentially the same thing, but you can see this occurs 861 times, so almost 1,000 times. And if you look at the third entry, shelach, missile, or missile, right? Not like a missile that's shot from a jet plane or something, but a missile like the old terms, like a letter, right? Something like that. So let's look at the first one, shalach, and we'll see that the first occurrence of this appears in Genesis 3:22. And what we have here is yishlach, yishlach. So yishlach, and then in the very next verse, Genesis 3:23, we have vayishlach, vayishlach, or vayishlech, sorry, vayishlech, and then Genesis 8:7, vayishlach. There we go. So Genesis 3:23, if you're looking at the screen, vayishlech, and then in Genesis 8:7, vayishlach, they look very similar, but notice that vowel difference under the last letter there, final chet. So the same thing in Genesis 8:8, vayishlach. And if we look down at Genesis 8:10, we have shalach. And then Genesis 12:20, we have vayishlachu, vayishlachu. And look at this one. In Genesis 18:16, shalacham, shalacham, shalacham. So if we click on here, we can kind of see the same thing we're going to see in two-letter lookup here in a minute. But essentially this word has to do with sending or sending away, like departing. Although to let go, to stretch out, to let loose, those are some pretty different, to shoot forth, right? So I guess ammo idea does come into play there. Let's look at two-letter lookup. Again, we're going to essentially see the same thing, but I like using this tool and featuring it on here because I want people to start using it. So there we go, shalach. And as I said, you see the same thing there. One of the things that we do get here, we get this AV translation bit, and then we can click on the Gesenius or Jastrow lexicons. We can also see these in different specific portions of Scripture. So, like all of the Old Testament, Genesis through Deuteronomy, Joshua through Esther, Job through Songs, Isaiah through Malachi, so on and so forth. But we'll just look at Jastrows here, and this is good to look at an actual old lexicon and so we don't forget how to do that, right? So you can let's see. Do we need to go to the previous page? Let's see what they got there. So we have the shalach. It starts on the previous page to draw out, to stretch forth, and when we flip to the next page, to send, and you can see that it has some references here. So this is pretty cool, pretty helpful. We click it, we can zoom in, and it'll give you context, actually, both in Scripture and sometimes outside of Scripture. And it'll explain the meanings in the different forms, right? The different verb forms. So call versus PL, so on and so forth. Nithpael, nithpael, so on and so forth. So shalach has to do with sending, and it's a bad mnemonic probably for most people, but it reminds me of that old song somewhere in the recess of my mind, like boom shakalaka, or that old saying, boom shakalaka. I don't know. So shalach, that's what I hear in there. The boom, and those work together to remind me of sending a missile, but not like a jet missile, like a letter missile. So there's all kinds of mnemonic things going on there for me. Boom shakalaka, shalach. Yeah, so use whatever works for you. And I'll stop there and say, for now, I hope that helps.
Interested in growing your ancient language skills but not sure where to start? Glossa House can help. From illustrated readers and short stories to lexicons and grammars, Glossa House offers a variety of resources for beginning, intermediate, and experienced ancient language learners. Head to glossahouse.com today. Glossa House, language resources for the global community.